Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I want to introduce the panel that is sharing this platform with me, and I'm so grateful that these lovely ladies have taken their time out of their day to be with us. And let's start with Dr. Kristine Pass, Susan Jarboe, Karen Downey, and Reverend Linda. And I'm Kathy Cronin, and I will do our topic. But before we do that, let's take a moment to help get centered and focus ourselves on the intention of being in the present moment. Let's let go of anything that's going on right now in our lives and know that it will be there for us to solve afterwards. But this is our time to connect with spirit and with the heart and soul of the universe. So take a moment, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and relax and release that breath. And you'll feel the tension out of your body. Take another breath in and let it go. And we say, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the very presence and essence of your being, for the wisdom that is guiding us today in sharing our thoughts and our feelings, and to be opening our hearts to the love that is around us, the support that you have provided us, and the consideration that Spirit is always with us, walking us through each and every moment of our day. Amen. So my topic this morning is going to be on, it's taken from the Unity booklet from Lent, for the Lent of 2026. And it's Release and Reimagine. And I'm using the writings for the fourth Sunday of Lent. And this was written by Reverend Claudia Olmos. And it's called Reframing with Imagination. So as she writes, reframing is a technique through which we change a negative perception into something more positive and constructive. In the face of life's difficulties, our first reaction is often to imagine the negative side of the situation, perhaps even the excuse that if we anticipate worst-case scenarios, we can prevent them. We tell ourselves it's just in case. We don't realize that. Instead of preventing, we are using the power of our thoughts and feelings to create a story of limitation and scarcity. In such moments, it is time to pause and remember that the presence of God is in everything, including any challenge or difficulty we may be experiencing. We can use the power of imagination to create a new frame of reference and open ourselves to the possibilities a challenge presents, allowing us to see it from the highest, most optimistic and constructive perspective. For example, your husband is late getting home from work. Your mind begins to spin fearfully, negative stories. He's having an affair. He's dead in a ditch. He has left home forever. All right. Try a reframe, even a silly one. He's in his boss's office getting a promotion. He's meeting friends to plan a surprise birthday party for me. As long as you're imagining scenarios, you might as well pick one you like until you have more actual information. Not all reframes are lighthearted, but they allow us to face any situation with openness, recognizing that every challenge is temporary. By opening ourselves to possibilities, we remember that we always have God with us in whatever we are living through. So, how to reframe? And these are some of the guidelines that she wrote. Identify the situation that you have labeled a challenge, annoyance, or a problem. Observe the facts objectively, just as they are. Pay attention to the story you are building around those facts. Ask yourself, is what I'm thinking real, or is it mental assumptions? Am I willing to see it in a different way? If the answer is yes, you are ready to reframe by using the power of your imagination. From a quiet and serene place to connect and become aware of God's presence, you can do this through silent meditation or prayer. Once you are immersed in the serene and peaceful presence, bring your situation to mind and affirm, I am willing to see the highest vision and greater good in this situation. I open myself to receive divine wisdom to move through this situation. God provides me with all the resources necessary to overcome this challenge. I trust in God. I know I am not alone. Even in uncertainty, I can have faith. Now, imagine the best possible outcome of the situation. Visualize how it will feel when the problem is resolved. Allow that feeling to fill you now. Release any worries and rest with faith in God. Feel peace return to you. So I really like this thought of reframing. And many times we think the worst case scenario. And we probably grew up with some of that about the fear of being called to the principal's office. It goes all the way back to our youth and the anxiety of, when you're called to show up or your boss says, can you come to my office? And the steps from your desk to their office, you're in dread of what this could be. And sometimes it's just taking that moment of whatever it may be and take a deep breath in and just go, okay, we're going to get the highest and best outcome of the situation. I often do that when I have medical tests being done. I recently had to have some MRI done, and in the process of going into the machine, if anybody's had an MRI and you're sort of encased in this iron tube, I always say to myself, as this test is going on, the best and positive outcome will come from this, that all will be well. And I keep repeating that a mantra to myself as this test is going on. It gets me over the anxiety of being enclosed in an MRI machine. And the other one is knowing that my highest good is being watched over by God, and that the healing energy of spirit is I can bring in by resetting my mind. And so often I have to take that time and step back and look at a situation and think, am I creating it to be worse than it is? Or can I see it to be a positive step in the right direction? Even sometimes losing a job may be opening a door or a window to something and a greater opportunity if we can reframe our thinking on that. I have often been out of work and going, needing to find a job. And I just always say, I lift this up for that which is for my highest good. I trust in you, God, that you will bring whatever is present. So I want to put this to my panel to share their times that they've had to reframe a situation and how we can imagine things to be better and be more positive, and or how we can turn the thing around. So who would like to share first their thoughts on reframing with their imagination? Thank you, Kristine.
Kathy, this one is so fun for me. I loved that the writing included to try a reframe, even a silly one, because that is a go-to for me. I am so good at figuring out what the worst case scenario is going to be. And so one of the techniques that I learned quite some time ago was to exaggerate the catastrophe. Imagine that worst case scenario. Take it to the extreme. I'm sitting here and I am going to make a complete fool of myself. I'm going to talk a lot of gibberish. In fact, people are going to think that I have stopped speaking English altogether because I have lost my mind. And then nobody is going to take me seriously in the metaphysical world because I am such a klutz at all of this. And let me tell you, I could go on and on for a long time with this. But it does come down to exactly what you said, Kathy, that our highest good is there. It's in the midst of every situation. And so, occasionally my highest good might look like an utter failure. And yet, I can rest assured that I'm failing up. So I really, really enjoyed this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And who would like to go next on their thoughts on how they reimagine it?
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for that topic. And, the first thing that made me think about is going back many, many years to my first meetings in Al-Anon. And they called it the squirrel cage between the ears. And oh my God, I know for years I lived in the squirrel cage in my mind. And when you're married to an alcoholic, there's always a lot of things that you can imagine. And some of them not so pleasant as the things that I was going to do to him if he ever did come home. Um, anyway, over the years, or I don't even know how it happens, but now it's like everything is just the way it's supposed to be, or it wouldn't be. And a lot of the things that I projected my thoughts into thinking how it was going to be or whatever, whether it was with a new job or whatever, never ever turned out the way that it was in my mind. And recently, I guess it was kind of maybe a little test for me. I have a very small disability check that comes from Department of Labor. And all of a sudden, 7 months ago, the check was $150 less than what it has been over like 20 years. And that was really scary. Dealing with the Department of Labor and the government is scary stuff because they're the power. What are they going to do to me? All of the things that you were talking about, those fears. And then finally, it was like, well, what do I need to do? What action do I need to do? Which was pick up the phone, call my case examiner. And it's been a long process, and it's still not really remedied. But in the course of the time, it's like, well, this might be the way it is. So I have $150 less a month. I don't know what the best thing is. Was there a mistake made in the computations that were done back, when I got out of the Peace Corps? I don't know. But I keep doing the footwork. As much as I don't want to pick up the phone, call my case examiner, see what's going on, because he usually doesn't know what's going on, and then they put it on somebody else and somebody else. So it's kind of like, okay, what do I need to do? And then not judge anything that's going on. Just be here, be now, and get out of this squirrel cage. So thank you. That really brought back some memories and some good thinking. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your thoughts. So who would like to share next?
Hello. Reframing is a technique I've known of for some time. There was a book years and years ago called From Frogs into Princes, and it was about your froggy thoughts becoming prince thoughts. And so I have used framing on and off as necessary went over the years. And what I'm finding, particularly with your remarks, is that I really haven't used imagination much. And the idea of creating silly stories as potential outcomes is new to me. And I might indeed give that a try. What I have tried to do is look on the bright side, walk on the sunny side of the street, and deliberately change my fantastic negative thoughts into what I would call more logical reasoning. Um, I I am sorry for repeating this story, but it fits the case. Um, my cat was recently diagnosed with glaucoma, and one of the results of it is that I have to give him one set of drops 3 times a day, another set of drops twice a day. And so this kind of disrupts my schedule and so on. And he's being a very good cat about it. But the first few weeks, I just felt such compassion and sadness and sorrow that both of us had to go through this. And then I reframed it, and I didn't sit down and say, now how can I reframe this? The reframe just came to me, and it was how wonderful that veterinary medicine has progressed so far that they can do something about glaucoma. And so I'm thinking that when my problem or issue or negative thinking involves someone else, I think it would be hard for me to come up with a more absurd scenario. And similarly, when my husband fell ill with multiple sclerosis and he got it very badly, very quickly, um, as you can imagine, I felt badly for a while. And then I just decided I'm going to give him the best life possible, and which is what I set out to do. So I want to try on some of the things that Karen mentioned. I don't like phone calls that are going to be a hassle, like if I have to return something or there's a mistake financially. I hate that kind of thing too. And I've just sort of forced my way through it. But what I'm going to do now, when I face those kinds of situations that Karen mentioned, I'm going to try the silly scenario and see if it works for those kinds of situations. I don't think I can use it when the situation involves other living beings. So thank you, Kathy, for expanding my knowledge of this process of reframing.
Thank you, Susan, for sharing those thoughts. So, Reverend Linda, do you have some thoughts for us?
I do. I love this topic, and once again, I find it very serendipitous that I was just doing this topic for Foundation Friday. It was a teaching of Lowell Fillmore, and he called it Renovating Your Mind. And he suggested that some of the thoughts that go through our head, if other people could know what we were thinking, we would be ashamed and afraid. I always like the comment that, or the idea that worrying is a misuse of our power of imagination. And I think it was Karen who said she would worry, and it never turned out the way she thought it was going to anyways. And I've been in that cycle myself. I haven't been really concerned about somebody being late since the invention of cell phones. But I am so old, I can remember before we had any means of communication. And, being a young mother with two young kids in the house, if the husband didn't show up, I would run to end of the world scenarios. There's been an accident, something's gone wrong. And a lot of that was because I was so dependent on him in my life at the time. As my abilities have grown and my dependencies have diminished, I don't tend to freak out about things like that. Although, checks being missing when I'm expecting them to pay bills could drive me crazy quickly, I think. Also, we were talking about having to make the dreaded phone call. There's something wrong. And I find, and this is, my silly scenario, that instead of calling them up to do battle, I try and join with them. Hey, let's get together and solve this problem. What ideas can you give me as I figure this out? And that approach usually works very well for me. We're in charge of our thoughts, and if we don't pay attention to them, we can have some really bad, even sickening thoughts that cripple us, mind, body, and soul. I think this topic is hugely important, and that we all owe it to ourselves to imagine the very best outcomes and think about not what'll happen if I fail, but what'll happen when I succeed. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Linda. And I appreciate the panel sharing their thoughts. And if anybody has any more to add to it, I as I look at this background behind me with the Eiffel Tower, it brings back the reframing imagination with imagination. Last year for my 25th anniversary, I told my husband I wanted to go to Paris, and I had this whole picture of how our trip to Paris would be, but I forgot about how much walking was going to be involved with it, and I was exhausted. But now I can look at this picture, reframe that trip, and remember the beauty of what I got to see while I was there. And just brings back a fond memory and takes away all the angst of how exhausted I was and tired I was, and the heat and everything that sort of took away from the moment of there. But it's like now I can have the memory. So sometimes that thing. And one other one I want to share is, and I'll welcome my panel back as I share this last thought with people, is that we often, when you're sitting with a friend who may be caught in the angst of worry in something that's going on, I can remember a time that I had some friends, and we would take that case to the worst case scenario, sort of what Dr. Chris, we get to the point of going, oh, well, it could be a monkey running loose with this, and that's where your check went, or, and we get to the point of getting it to be so funny that we would be laughing with tears running down. So sometimes if, and part of being a friend is just creating together, get those minds just working on the funniest things that possibly could happen and what will come from it. And it's like, okay, well, that 150 that's been taken from you, Karen, is feeding somebody, a hungry family. So it's like maybe at the point in time if somebody is dealing with some angst, and you can't take that away from them, but maybe bring some humor into it with them and sharing that and just letting them imagine it, because that will help. That laughter will help relieve it. And that opens, when you laugh, you open open your mind to the wisdom of the universe. So I really want to thank everybody for being here. If anybody wants to add anything to that, or a time that, you know, they helped somebody get through a very troubling time by just laughing through it. It's one of the best ways that we can enjoy each other and be there for each other. And just, it's imagination, and part of imagine. Think of the little kids and how they imagine, and they make us smile and laugh when you hear their stories that they're imagining these situations. So let's be little kids and do the same things for ourselves and reframe the situation. So with that, I want to close and thank everybody. And we appreciate you being here, taking time out of your day and joining this. And we hope that this has opened some new thoughts for you, and learning how to maybe overcome some worries and angst in your life. And just know that you're not alone, and everybody is here to support you. Please leave any comments you have for us. If you like the topic, you know, do a thumbs up, or and if there's anything you want us to discuss or talk about, please put it in the chat and we will respond to your comments. And if you're not a subscriber, please join our group. We would be so grateful to share this with you and pass these messages on to others. If you know somebody that might be going through some worries, that maybe they'll, by learning how to reframe that and imagining a better outcome, will help them through this. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I appreciate everyone being here, and we look forward to joining you again. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.